So the new DC movie slate is being revealed in the coming days, and with those announcements just around the corner, I thought I'd do a video looking at potential movies and projects that could be involved. James Gunn and Peter Safran are looking to build out a DC universe across movies, TV shows and video games that will begin with a Phase 1, which will hopefully kick off an interconnected comic book storyline for the decades to come. So what could this involve, and what type of overall approach will we see from the new DC studio heads? Before I get into my predictions, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming content surrounding the DCU, the Batman universe, and other upcoming DC projects, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into my predictions for Phase 1 of the DCU. So the start of a new DC movie universe is about to be revealed by James Gunn and Peter Safran, following them taking over at DC Studios during the back part of 2022. They are set to reveal a few films for the first phase of the new cinematic endeavour, which is set to be presented through films, TV shows, and video games. James Gunn did take to Twitter in the last 24 hours to reveal that each phase of his DC universe will be titled as chapters rather than phases, and he confirmed what we learned of previously, that this January reveal will only feature a few projects from that first chapter rather than the entire slate. Of course, we've only got a week left of January, so the reveal is imminent and likely to come by the end of this week or the start of next week. And these movies and projects will likely begin after the current era of DC films, which as we know of right now concludes with this year's The Flash, starring Ezra Miller. So let's discuss what we could see in the reveal and what the other projects could be beyond that. Starting with the confirmed movie for James Gunn's DCU Chapter 1, we have a brand new Superman film. Although it was thought that Henry Cavill would continue as the superhero, it was decided just weeks after the actor announced that he would be returning that instead, they would be going for a complete reboot of the character on the big screen. Now, you know that I was quite disappointed with the way they handled that decision, and as someone who loves Man of Steel, this felt like extra salt to the wound. But at the same time, I understand that there were also many who didn't like that take, and a character as big as Superman can be played by multiple actors, just like any other superhero. While I wouldn't have minded Henry coming back to play the character in a new take, I understand that they wanted to go a new route and start fresh with a new actor. Now yes, I think there's a good argument to be made surrounding why Cavill was axed, as other characters could be staying on to play roles from the previous universe, but until we get those announcements, I think it's hard to judge anything surrounding this new approach. And that applies to how I'm feeling about the current landscape of DC and comic book films too. While I'm getting tired of formulaic approaches to superheroes when it comes to shared universe films, at the same time, with Gunn aiming to bring a new flavour to that, I'm gonna wait until I see the announcements and, more importantly, the movies themselves before I judge the whole thing. And the same can be said about a new Superman film, which is very likely going to be the first project on that big DC slate. James Gunn is apparently writing the script for a new Superman movie, and while I don't know how I feel about that decision, I'm hoping it turns out great and that the filmmaker attached to direct is at least a competent one. My prediction would be that this is the first film on the slate to really define Clark as the central pillar of this new universe, centering on an already established version of the hero and not a retelling of the origin. That's the key rumour we've heard over the last few months, and it will be interesting to see how Gunn and another filmmaker eventually adapts it. Another thing to mention is that we might also see how this connects to a heavily rumoured Lobo project with Jason Momoa that the actor seems really excited about. James Gunn has teased that he's interested in using the character, and Lobo and Superman have had encounters encounters in the past. I doubt for phase 1 of the movie side of things that they'd risk doing a full-on Lobo movie when they really need to establish the core characters that are going to excite DC fans and movie audiences around the world. So I think the likely option for Lobo would either be a TV series to introduce the character, or have him be a villain in that Superman movie to kick off the universe. Whatever they do end up doing, we already know that Superman and Lobo are going to be a part of this first chapter, and like I said before, hopefully it will be a great way to really kick things off. Moving on, I think we cannot mention the start of a new DC universe without talking about the rest of the on-screen trinity. Now, to no one's surprise, it's been confirmed that Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves' The Batman is its own separate thing, and the Batman that we'll eventually see in the new DCU will be totally separate. Reeves and Gunn have apparently had meetings to discuss what they are both doing with the character so that they know how to avoid confusion when it comes to presenting two different versions of the character. I don't think that this will be a problem because we've seen multiple versions of characters done before at the same time, and if you lay out their individual characters quite well in different projects, I think people will understand that and be able to separate them. And I think Gunn and Safran will not look at the Batman universe and think, oh, maybe we should wait a few years before introducing our Batman. Like I said, they need to introduce the central characters of this DC universe right from the outset, so that in the films and projects to come, the universe can build out in a successful way. I don't see them starting with a Lobo or Plastic Man movie and then transition to bigger characters like Batman, because that just won't make for a successful model. Yes, you could argue that Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy for Marvel and made that a success, but that came after the success of other films like Iron Man, Captain America, and the Avengers. They'd put a marker down with the titular characters and then build out into the more obscure stuff. So I think he will focus on the bigger players like Batman and Wonder Woman in the first chapter, and maybe use the video game and TV mediums to focus on smaller and obscurer projects to begin with. Similar to, say, what he did with Peacemaker on HBO Max last year. But yes, when it comes to Batman and Wonder Woman, I expect them to get their own movies in the DCU Chapter 1, and I think we'll see the expanded worlds of those characters in ways that we've always wanted to see them. Think about how they could introduce the Bat family with characters like Nightwing, Batgirl, and Robin, and then have those introduced characters have their own projects through series and video games. That would make sense to start off with, and it gives the DCU room to grow after the first phase. And when it comes to Wonder Woman, if we do get a new take alongside a new Batman, that provides the room for growth in a new modern day setting, alongside a new cast of characters surrounding Diana Prince. I can see this being the likely route, because if they do want to build out this universe and get the central superheroes set up and done right, then it's better to do it and clean the slate right from the outset. Like Superman and Batman, we might see an established version of Diana Prince, one that has been around for a while. So while I predict that we'll see new movies announced for a brand new Trinity, I also think we'll get a taste of another Justice League member in the announcements too. The one member that has been severely mistreated on the big screen and deserves a great cinematic approach is none other than Green Lantern. It has been over a decade since the last Green Lantern movie, and we know that Zack Snyder was originally going to introduce Green Lantern into his movie universe at the end of Justice League instead of Martian Manhunter. Let's just say, I think it would be surprising if we didn't get a Green Lantern movie at the start of the new DCU. A Green Lantern film would likely focus on Hal Jordan or John Stewart, and it could introduce the intergalactic side of a new universe, presenting the opportunity for future projects to widen the storytelling landscape. The DCU's Green Lantern movie could further give us a greater tease of where the first Justice League threat will come from, whether that be Brainiac, Sinestro, or another villain, setting up the end of Chapter 1 to have an eventful collision. Now, of course, we may get other Justice League members members with the Flash, Cyborg, and so on, but the Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern movies are the 4 that are primed to open this new universe. The others can come within those movies because, for one, we are about to get a new Flash film as part of the old regime, and the Snyder Cut of Justice League focused heavily on Cyborg. So I think when it comes to the other members, we'll see them introduced in a similar way to how we saw some of the Avengers introduced in the earlier phase of the MCU. When it comes to the other projects, I can also see Gunn continuing his Suicide Squad series, and whether that's on TV or the big screen, following the smaller box office performance of the new Suicide Squad film, we will soon find out. But yes, I could see him doing a Suicide Squad 3 or a Harley Quinn movie, as it would allow the room for more great villains of the DCU to be formed and used as the movies progress. We know he's going to do a Peacemaker Season 2, as that was successful on HBO Max, so I could see more of that being tackled for other characters down the line too. If he does do a Harley Quinn film or a Suicide Squad sequel, I would love to see the introduction of Poison Ivy, who again is another character that I'm shocked we haven't seen more of. Establishing a DCU Harley and Poison Ivy will be great for the extended Batman world in the DCU too, and I think it's the perfect time to bring those sorts of characters to the main stage. Again though, whether that's TV based or on the big screen, it's yet to be confirmed. Speaking of the TV shows and the smaller projects, like I hinted at before, I think the medium can be used to further out some of the smaller characters or characters that star in the feature films we eventually see. Alongside certain Suicide Squad members, we could see characters like Green Arrow, Plastic Man, and Hawkgirl included, as they could provide unique filmmakers with the chance at adapting really well-made obscure projects. After establishing a core Justice League in Chapter 1 of the DCU for the big screen, when it comes to Phase 2 or beyond, you can then have smaller characters have bigger budget films if things are of course going well by that point. I would love to see something like a Jason Todd series or even characters like Sinestro come into the mix, but to get to that, I think DC will need to put its marker down with characters that people are actually going to turn up for first. If you make a great Superman movie, a great Batman movie, a great Wonder Woman movie, a great Green Lantern movie, and then eventually a great Justice League film in this new DCU, then people will be interested in checking out other characters down the line too. And as I mention a Justice League film, this leads me to predict that this will be the final movie of the DCU Chapter 1. Now, I don't think that James Gunn is going to announce this movie in the upcoming reveals, but if we do get announcements surrounding other Justice League members, then I think it will be a matter of time before a Justice League movie will be on the cards come the end of Chapter 1. In particular, I think we could see a take on Justice League Rebirth, having the established Trinity team up with other known and lesser known heroes to stop whatever the threat turns out to be. You know that I would love to see a villain like Brainiac involved, but whoever it is, as long as it's developed well during the first phase, then it should get people hyped for the scale of this new Justice League film. We'll have to see, but I think it's very likely that a new Justice League movie is the eventual endgame of this opening chapter. But that was my video discussing my early predictions for the upcoming DCU slate. Overall, I think this is a big opportunity for Gunn and Safran to really create some anticipation around the interconnected side of DC going forward, and while I won't be judging it until we eventually see it, it will be great to know exactly what we could get in the coming years. As I say, I think it will be a good idea to build the foundations and make it known to us of what types of films we're going to be getting, and eventually the types of filmmakers that are going to be attached. James Gunn will of course be creatively involved in a few of them, but there will be many that will likely be directed by other talented filmmakers, so hopefully there's some quality names involved. We'll have to see, and I just hope that from a universe side of things, that this feels different to what's come before, and that it really incorporates some great filmmaking, resulting in quality over quantity. But let me know down below in the comment section what your predictions are for the upcoming DC slate, and whether you're generally excited for a new universe by James Gunn and Peter Safran. For much more videos and news on upcoming DC reveals, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.